Good evening, Bright Mulema and Michael Tarmasu, I think. And Julius Molekule. Good evening. You guys are first. And since you are first, the sooner you put in your question, the sooner I can answer it before it gets busy. Hello, Johan and Charlene. Hello, Charlene. How are you doing? Good evening, Jan and CK. Good evening, folks. Nice seeing some of you again. HK, good evening. I think I've seen comments from you in the past. Graham G, pretty sure I've seen some comments and they've actually replied on some of your comments. Cindy Digital, good evening. DP, Rhoda, Dolph, Graham G, how's it? Yes, I thought I knew you, Graham. Well, know you as well as you can know somebody. Unless you've met them in person. Good evening, Jan. Good evening, Mac. So it is time to do a bit of live Q&A with regards to insurance and stuff. Have we? When did we meet in person, Graham? Because I feel suddenly, immediately bad that I can't remember. And I can't see. The little banner is too small, so I can't see your face, but in any case, so yeah, please let me know where we've met. Last week I did not do a live. I must be. Oh, okay, Roodepoort. Yeah, that's just around the corner from me. I'm here in Krugersdorp. Last week I did not meet. I wanted to, but I took a week of leave, and Friday was the last day. So by Thursday night I was sitting, having a bit of a braai in the late afternoon at the place where we were sitting with some mountains and everything, and I just thought, oh, I'm sure everybody can forgive me for one night, and therefore I did not jump on a TikTok live last week. I used a bit of downtime, so I'm all rested and ready tonight to have a proper good old Q&A and see how much I can hopefully help you and teach you. So there we go. So Graham, you said we met in Roodepoort. Was it at a business? Was it at your house? Do I know you as a client, or have we just met by pure luck? Cool. Do we have mutual clients? It's very possible. What business are you in, Graham? Me and you sitting here having a chat as if it's only for the two of us. People, please. I'm having a chat with Graham while I'm waiting for the first person to actually put in a comment. Good evening, Tiesak. Glad to see you. I have seen you from before. How's it, Rowan? Good evening, mate. I hope you've got a live coming up. Oh, Graham, you, bud. Gee whiz. Francois van der Schijf. I'm sure that's the guy that we have in common, eh? Charlene says, please explain the sequence of risk. Okay, so I don't think I've ever had that question, Charlene. You come up with very interesting and difficult questions. I'm not actually 100% sure what you mean by the sequence of risk. I mean, if you drive in a vehicle and you drive at 60 kilometers an hour, there's a little bit of risk. And as you drive faster and faster and go around corners and whatever, the risk increases. So I don't know if that's what you mean with a sequence of risk, or as to how risk increases. So I'm going to answer it like that, and hopefully I'll be right. So then we would look at risk starting on one end of the scale, at the very lowest possible risk, meaning guarantees, and this is obviously with regards to investments, where you can invest money and a company guarantees you give me X amount of capital. I will either give you A amount of income on a monthly basis, or I will give you X amount of capital return in the future. That is the lowest possible risk. They guarantee you what you're going to get, and that will always be the lowest type of returns you're going to get. Then next would go up to something like low risk, where you are talking about something like a bank savings account, where they do not give you a guarantee, but still, because it's interest, it's very low risk and also low type of return. Then you go into things like stable funds and income funds. That's where the companies invest mainly in shares that are dividends driven and that declares a lot of dividends, but they still have a lot of cash and bonds in those portfolios in order to make sure that they stay as far as possible away from the market and from shares that could have substantially high risk. So now you're into the low risk range, if I can call it that. Then we start going from stable funds to balanced funds. And balanced funds is where we start taking more shares in a portfolio, and you start looking at a portfolio that is made up of anything from 50% to maybe 70-75% of shares, and the other 25 to 50% is still in things like property, commercial property, bonds and cash. And as the market risk increases for the portfolio manager, he will get out of equities, he will start selling off shares and will buy more into cash and bonds and stuff like that. So that would be your medium risk. And then from there, when you go to medium, high and high risk, it is just the equation that changes, meaning that in a medium high risk portfolio, you're going to look at about 70 to 85% shares, and the difference is going to be into the cash and the bonds and stuff. And on your high risk or your very aggressive, there you're going to look to have 95 to 100% in shares all of the time, and very little, very little in cash or anything like that. So that's basically the sequence, going from very guaranteed and very safe to very aggressive. And obviously, the higher you move in terms of your aggression, in terms of your shares that you've got, the better it is to stay invested for longer, because shares has proven over the years that your biggest risk is in the very short term. So basically, we're talking about a year or less. And then in year 2, so normally what we say is, when you look at certain portfolios, they say the upside could be as much as 40%, the downside could be as much as 30%. But in year 2, by year 2, upside would be like 30%, downside would be like minus 20%. And then eventually you get to a point where year 5, 6, 7, upside will be 10, 12, 14%, and the downside will be minimal to nothing, literally like minus 3, minus 4%, if anything. And always in terms of these aggressive funds, if it does go to a negative at some point, it's normally a question of just hanging in there, staying a bit longer, and it will recover, and you will in any case end up in the green and end up with a good return. So I hope I've explained the sequence of risk right, Shalene, but if I have missed it completely in terms of how I understand the question, just give me some more detail. Okay, thank you very much. Hi Rowan. Hey Graham, thanks man. Now that I know, and you are down in the coast these days, mate. So lucky for you to have moved down there. I still see Francois, I believe you still do his accounting. Rowan, you say you need to have a life, you've reached a milestone. Please tell me, my mate, what is the milestone? Please, please, please. You mean when you are retired? Okay, Shalene said the sequence of risk when you are retired and drawing from income. So I think everything that I've explained to you now in terms of risk in portfolio, Shalene, works exactly the same in retirement. And I think the mistake that people make is they believe that when they get to retirement, that they have to immediately move from aggressive to very low risk. But the fact of the matter is, risk is best mitigated by understanding the time frame that you are going to be invested for. And I know it sounds too simple to be true. I know it does, but it's as simple as this. Anything from 1 month investment to 2 to 3 years is you should be in very, very low risk. Then from 3 years to about 5 years, you can move up to something that's more medium. 5 to 7, you become medium aggressive to aggressive. And literally, if you have 7 years or longer, you can be as aggressive as you want to be. It's literally that simple. I know people don't buy into it and there must be more to it. There's nothing more to it. Those time frames can basically determine where you should be investing. So for somebody that comes to retirement, let's say somebody works until the age of 65 and they then retire. With a life expectancy for a man of the age of 78, that person has basically 13 years left. So for all intents and purposes, they can stay invested very aggressively and stay in there for another 7 or 8 years. And then, if needed, and when I say if needed, if their capital situation is such that it's needed to build in more protection, then they can start moving down and down and down to more conservative and safer funds. That is literally when it goes to it. The other risk thing in terms of income is that if you start off and you can do a drawdown of 4 to 5%, brilliant. That's going to help you in terms of how aggressive you can be invested. Problem is if you need to draw like 8, 9, 10% as an income, then you almost don't have a choice. You have to be invested in very aggressive funds to try and keep your capital high enough to keep on giving you that income. And that is when risk becomes a different thing, because now it's not the portfolio and it's not the income so much that is the determining factor of how high your risk is. It's the fact that you don't have enough capital. So the amount of capital that one has available for income, that's also a determining factor on risk. So when you start putting all of this together, then you start getting the same thing from being very conservative to very aggressive and where you should slot in. So if you work on it on a time frame basis, very easy. You literally go and look at the time frame and you can tell somebody where to invest. Moment that you start looking at things like income and stuff like that, well, that's when it becomes a bit tricky and where I have to really use this noggin of mine to tell people where to invest. Okay, great stuff. Thelonious Monk says, hi, I want to invest money and live off the monthly interest. Well, then, Thelonious, what I would recommend is that you contact me. In my profile is my WhatsApp number and our website where our email address is. Contact us and Mark Harris from our office will be in contact. He will set up an appointment for you with myself or one of my advisors. We will do a proper analysis and planning session for you, and then we will advise you and recommend what products will work best for you so that you get the best possible income with the lowest possible tax. That's what I recommend, Thelonious. Get proper financial advice, and yeah, we will be more than happy to help you. Braken says, can I have 2 non-taxable income that is from different institutions? You can, but you cannot. Braken, so you can, but you cannot. And what I mean by that is, okay, we would assume here that we are talking about pension fund money, okay. So basically, I think you can earn up to about 140,000 Rand per year before you're going to have to start paying taxes. So let's say on 140,000, let's just divide that quickly. Let's say I'm right with my assumption. I can't remember it offhand, but let's say I'm right and that you can earn up to 140,000 without paying tax. That gives you 11,500 a month approximately. Okay, so that's 5,800. That's 11,600 per month. Okay, so you could literally have 2 retirement annuities that pays you an income, one from Momentum, one from Sanlam. And both of them pays you 5,000 Rand income. Okay. So because it is under the threshold, it's 0% that you have to pay here and 0% that you have to pay there. But, and this is where the but comes in, those 2 companies will pay you that income at 0%. But then at the end of the year, they have to send the tax directive to SARS. And when it gets to SARS, SARS says, let's join all of these people's incomes together. And when we join all of their incomes together, then we will determine what their actual tax is. So in the example I've just given you, with 5,000 this side, 5,000 that side, you will have a tax-free income on both sides and together a tax-free income. But let's say you had a 5,000 Rand income on the one side and 10,000 Rand on the other. Strictly speaking, the 10,000 on its own will be tax-free, but now that it's together with the 5,000 Rand, you will have to pay tax. So once again, you can choose with the two companies to say, I'm paying you 0% tax and I'm paying you 0% tax, and they won't ask you for tax. But at the end of the year, SARS will get the two tax directors, see that you are earning 15,000 Rand per month, and therefore that you're earning 180,000 per year, and SARS will come back to you and say to you, from now on we want to have tax. And SARS actually goes as far these days as contacting the insurers and saying, listen here, this client, from now on, you must deduct, let's call it 20% tax from them. And that company must then deduct the 20%. They must inform you, but they must deduct the 20%. There are circumstances in which you can say, I opt out, I don't want to pay this tax, but those circumstances has to be explained. It has to do with tax directives, etc., etc. So yes, you can have two non-taxable incomes from different institutions, but if those two non-taxable investments together is big enough to put you in a tax bracket, then you have to pay tax. So that's on the pension side of things. If you have discretionary money, which means your own voluntary money, so let's say that's cash money that you've got in the bank, and you've got the same situation, the chances are very good that because of the structure of the product, the full income will not be taxable. And now, if we go back to the 5,000 Rand example, now maybe 4,000 of that is tax-free and 1,000 is taxable. So you will have the same thing that SARS will get tax directives from these companies, but the tax directives will be only on the taxable portion of the income. And then, because it's discretionary funds, because the income has a lower tax implication, it could be that there won't be a tax implication for you. Okay, so it's a bit of a long explanation, and I don't know if it makes 100% sense, but you're welcome to contact us if you've got something like that, and once again, we will gladly assist you and explain this to you. Okay, so let's see who was next in terms of question. Christo van Sail joined, and that joined. Yeah, now we've got a lot of people that's joined. Welcome everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm just slowly but surely scrolling through here to see who was the next person to actually put in a question. King Mafia Killer, my brother, I hope you're not really dead. Man, some of the names. Okay, joined from your notes. Wow, I've got a lot of people that's just, wow, Rowan, congratulations, mate. 15,000 followers on TikTok. Wonderful. Great stuff, Rowan. And just, it's not even been a year. Well done. You deserve it. And I can only see good things happening in your future. Congratulations, mate. Congratulations. I'm very proud of you. What options are there besides RAs for discretionary income? So, Charlene, in terms of, just understand that retirement annuities is seen as compulsory money, if I can put it that way, because when that retirement annuity converts into an income, it's pensionable. Discretionary capital is investments that you save, so money that you had in the bank, an endowment policy that you've taken out and it's grown and that's already been taxed in the investment, and therefore when you withdraw it, it is tax free. That is what is seen as discretionary funds. So you cannot take a retirement annuity and go and put that into a discretionary income plan, and vice versa. You cannot take discretionary money or voluntary money and put that into a pension income plan. So that will always be separate. Everything that is in retirement annuities, pension funds and provident funds will at some time be converted into pension incomes or compulsory funds, and everything that is in other investments will therefore be discretionary money or discretionary funds and can be invested in income products that is discretionary of note. So two different types of money, two different types of products. But at the end of the day, the products work very much the same. It is just in terms of the taxation of these products, the what's the word? Accessibility of these products, those things. There's technical differences, but it pretty much works the same, the products at the end of the day. Okay, I hope that answers it for you, Charlene. Yuri Bauer joined. Yuri, are we family, brother? We thank you, joined. Thank you. Lee says, good evening, sir. I would like to know, if I never took money from savings vault, is it part of a lump sum? Yes, Lee. So, yeah, let's not get too far going on that, okay? On the two-part system again. I just want to get upset with it. So, Lee, your pension fund money up until September 2024, okay, was one big amount of money. And let's say your pension fund value at that stage was 1 million rand. Okay. If you were to retire at that point, you would have been able to take 1/3 of that 1 million rand, 333,333 rand, and the rest you would have had to buy a pension with. From that day on, so that's when they started with the savings pot down. And basically all it means is that from October of 2024, you would still be contributing your funds. And you would still be saving in a pension fund. But now that 1/3 that in the past you could not access, anything you now start putting in, let's say you contribute 3,000 rand per month. In the past, that full 3,000 rand would just be called your pension fund, and one day you would be able to draw 1/3 and 2/3 must give you an income. Now you put in 3,000 rand, and now they're saying, okay, 1,000, 1/3 of that is going into your savings pot, and the other 2/3, the other 2,000 rand is going into your retirement pot. Okay, and now they allow you access to that savings portion, and that's where the big bugger up has come, because in the past, that 1/3 you would not be allowed to draw it until the age of 55. Now they say, listen, you can draw it. So all I want to say to you is, let's say you had this pension and it was 1 million rand, you would have been able to take 333,000 rand as your 1/3. Now you start saving after that, and now you get to retirement, and now your 1 million rand from that time, plus the next million you've paid in, and a 1 million rand growth. Now you've got 3 million rand in there, but you've never drawn from your savings. So all it basically means is that your total 1/3 from your 3 million rand, 1 million rand is what you can now draw as cash, because that's your 1/3, and the other 2 million you're going to buy an income with. And now this is where the problem comes in with the savings these days, is that people start drawing that on a regular basis. Now they get to retirement, and they don't have 3 million rand. They've got the 1 million rand from pre-2024, but from every year they've now withdrawn their money, so they didn't save up 2 million rand. They've used what it, so they kept on drawing they drew 666,000 over the lifetime. So they're left with 1,444,000 plus the 1 million from back then. So they're left with 2,444,000. But all they can now draw is 333,000 from back then. They can't draw 1 million rand because they've drawn the other 666,000. Now they can only draw a smaller lump sum, and they've got a small amount to get a pension from. And this is where the problem is. Most people, when they get to retirement, if they've never drawn and they've had their 3 million rand, they are going to just make it, so to speak, in terms of income, whether they leave the whole 3 million there and draw full income, or whether they draw an income from 2 million and they take the other million, they invest it under income plans and they draw an income from that, but they need the full 3 million rand to draw income to have enough pension fund money. So now if people start drawing, they get to retirement, they don't have 3 million, they've only got 2,333,000, and that 666,000 they drew, they need that in order to have a retirement that they can go on. But now they've already used it. and now they can't retire anymore, or they can retire but they're going to have a lot less. So as long as you never take money from your savings pot, you are doing yourself the biggest favor in life. You are doing the exact right thing by not drawing. Okay, Lee, I hope you stuck around for this explanation because it's very important, and I hope the rest of you are listening. Okay. Oh, sorry folks, I've had this funny throat on me today. I don't know if there's a bit of a cold or flu coming, but yeah. Dean Martins, good evening. Hi, tax-free investment. Best to go with bank or like a broker, like Momentum? Sorry. Dean, my honest opinion is I will never do any investing in the bank. And definitely not a tax-free investment. So just understand one thing. If you do a tax-free savings account, okay, because when people talk about banking, they normally talk about a normal savings account. So be that a money market account or a savings account or 32-day call account, I will never do a tax-free savings account like that or recommend anybody to do it. Because all you're going to get is the interest that they're going to give you. And they tell you up front, we give you 4 or 5 or 6 or 7%. And it's normally pathetic. You have to be like older than 55 and leave your money in for 12 months before you start getting an interest rate that beats inflation by 1 or 2%. So I won't go with a bank savings account. So some banks do have other investment products that you can make use of, which is similar to Momentum and Old Mutual and Allan Gray investment products. And if they do an investment for you there and they make use of portfolios that does good growth, then I don't have a problem with the bank investment. But if it's a savings account, definitely not. So I would say yes, go through an insurer like Momentum, Old Mutual, Sanlam, Allan Gray, Coronation, and make use of a financial advisor. You can do it yourself. There are some of these companies like Allan Gray and 10X and so on where you can do these type of investments without making use of a financial advisor. But I promise you, if you get a financial advisor that understands the products, understands the portfolios, it's worth it to make use of them. Yes, they are going to earn a commission, they're going to earn a fee, but trust me, at the end of the day, the value that you get in return for the cost that it's going to cost cannot be compared. So, Dean, if you are going to take up tax-free investments, please do not make use of a bank savings account. Do make use of a broker, and if you like Momentum, make use of Momentum. You will be much better off with your tax-free with them. Okay, Dean. Oh, pleasure, Lee. I'm glad that that you caught all of that. I'm very, very happy that you caught all of that. Champagne Puppy. Wow, some of you have the most wonderful name. Champagne Puppy. Can you invest in RSA retail bonds if you are under 60 and be able to get the interest monthly? I don't know. I quite frankly don't know. I don't like retail bonds, okay? I don't like bonds, point. I think bonds are crap. So I don't deal with them. Now and again, I will put a small portion of a client's investment into bonds because they want that safety and security. But personally, I don't deal with bonds. Now, what I do know is, once again, if you do an investment via insurance company and you want to get an income from it, then yes, you can do certain investments where you can choose bond funds. So you can choose a fund like a Old Mutual Bond Fund or Sanlam Bond Fund or Allan Gray Bond Fund, where the portfolio manager actually wheels and deals in these different retail bonds. And you can then get an income from that investment, and the investment will be invested in retail bonds. You can obviously buy retail bonds directly yourself. I don't even know where, so I'm not even going to try and tell you. And whether you can actually draw the interest on a monthly basis, I don't know, because I don't deal with those things. And like I said, it's because I don't like it. I don't like bonds. I think bonds are rubbish. Quite frankly, that's what I think about bonds. But yes, I'm sure you can actually do investments in bonds and draw the interest on a monthly basis. I just don't know where and how, because the products that I deal with doesn't deal with one specific retail bond. It deals with a combination of bonds. Okay, hope that helps you, sir or ma'am. Ashraf says, can I split my pension in portions, 50% life annuity, 50% living annuity? Yes, Ashraf, you can. As a matter of fact, a lot of people seems to want to do that these days. I don't know if it's just something that people have heard and now they think it's the sexiest thing to do. But yes, you can do it. You can choose to invest your pension when you get to retirement any way you wish. Everything in a living annuity, everything in a life annuity, 50-50, 30-70. They call it the hybrid model when you make use of a life and a living annuity. So you can absolutely do any of those with any combination of percentages as well. At the end of the day, it depends, for me personally, if the product that you want accommodates for your need. So if your need is such that a living annuity is going to be better, then just do the living annuity. If your need is such that a guaranteed life annuity is going to be better, then just do that. If your need is such, after all calculations have been done, that the combination will actually be better, then do that. So you can do it. And obviously you can do that with pension money, provident money, and retirement annuity funds. Okay, let's use next. Ashraf says, can I split my... Oh, Ashraf, sorry. I see you put in the question twice. I know, I'm sorry. Sometimes it does take a bit of time for me to get to people's questions, because sometimes I get a bit carried away with my explanations. Charlene asks, how does an endowment work? So Charlene, endowment is basically an investment that you do for any period of time. These days you don't even have to attach a time period to it, so you don't have to say it's for 5 years or 10 years or whatever the case might be. It is for any amount of time that you want. But an endowment, you invest the funds in your endowment, okay? And it gets invested in a portfolio of your choice. So let's say that you make use of a balance fund. And in that balance fund, the portfolio manager puts like 80% of the money in shares and the other 20% in cash and property and bonds. Then the growth that is generated in there, the capital gain that is generated in there, attracts capital gains tax, and the portfolio manager sorts that out within the investment. So the portfolio manager pays SARS the capital gains tax at the rate of 30%, so at a lower rate than what you would pay in your personal capacity normally. Excuse me. So portfolio manager takes charge of the tax situation within the investment, and then after 5 years, that's what the legislation says on endowments, at the end of the 5th year, because you've left your money in for 5 years, now you can withdraw your funds, everything, and you withdraw this after tax money. I know that we always refer to it as tax-free money. So people refer to it as you withdraw it as tax-free money because it's already been taxed inside of the fund. You don't see it, you don't feel it. So when you withdraw your money, there's no more tax, it's tax-free. And that's basically how endowment works. You invest for as long as you want, but in order to get the tax-free benefit, it must be in there for 5 years and then longer. So you can start with an endowment, and like I say, you don't have to put a date there, but the intention would be to keep on paying it for as long as possible. After year 5, it's now tax-free. But now you can still keep on contributing for the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years. So you get at the end of your 30 years that you've contributed to this thing, and they tell you there's 5 million rand in your endowment, you can at that stage withdraw the full 5 million rand and it's all tax free. Or you can start drawing an income and it's a tax free income. And that's how endowment works. It's literally, you can almost compare it to a normal savings account bank. It's just a bit more difficult to withdraw the funds. You don't get an ATM card, so it takes some time for the money to pay out. And that's what makes it better actually, because it's a forced way of saving, a disciplined way of saving. Okay, let's see. Yes, with all the questions tonight and everybody is joining, it seems like I should do what I did last week more often and only do like every 2 or 3 weeks live. Looks like you guys have missed me a little bit. Okay. Pleasure, Lee. I'm glad if there was clarity. Fantastic. Samangobo, how does an endowment work? I have just explained it. So I'm sure that you must have heard, because you didn't come in that much later. So I've just explained the whole endowment situation. But if you missed it, then put it in again and I'll run through it again. Rui says, if the company gives you your provident fund, do they give it as withdrawal or transfer in your account? Okay, so Rui, it all depends on when the company is going to give you a provident fund. Okay, if you leave the company before retirement age, then you get to choose whether you want to withdraw the funds and pay tax and then put it in your pocket or your bank account or whatever, or if you want to transfer it to another insurance company where there's a preservation fund, the new employer that you're with that's got a provident fund, or you can even leave it with your old company in their provident fund. You're actually not forced to move it. So if you transfer it to the new companies that you're going to work for's provident fund, or you transfer it to a preservation fund, it's a tax-free transfer. Great stuff. Your money goes into this fund and it keeps on growing, and then when you get to retirement, you retire as per normal from it. If you decide to withdraw it because it's now before the age of 55, okay, then you're going to pay tax. So you don't want to do that, because now you're going to pay a lot more tax than what you would have paid at retirement, number one. And number two, you're not going to have pension fund money left when you get to retirement, so you're not going to have enough to retire on. Okay, so that's what happens before the age of 55. If it's past the age of 55, you have the option to basically transfer it into a preservation fund and in some circumstances withdraw it, or you can now retire from the fund. So you can inform the fund that you're older than 55, you're leaving, you're retiring, and they must pay 1/3 to you in cash and 2/3 into a life or living annuity or whatever combination you want. But in all circumstances, before or after the age of 55, the only way to get access to the funds, be that a transfer, be that a withdrawal, be that a retirement, is you have to actually resign from the company. You can't get access to your funds while you are still with the company. Okay, Roy, I hope that helps. Swartkat says, are we talking about the tax-free investment? We weren't talking about the tax-free investment, but we can talk about it, Swartkat. So if you've got a specific question, ask it. We basically talked about endowments and how endowments work and how they are taxed. And maybe I can just explain this very quickly. Endowments and tax-free investments works exactly the same. When I say they work exactly the same, you invest money into endowments and tax-free investments. You make use of exactly the same portfolios in both of them. Everything is exactly the same. The only difference is the tax-free investment. The growth that you get on the tax-free investment is tax-free. And all the growth you get on the growth is tax-free. In the endowment, you are taxed inside of the fund, capital gains tax, and the fund manager takes care of that capital gains tax for you with SARS, so that when you get your money one day, you don't have to pay any taxes and you don't have to worry about any taxes. So that's literally the only difference between a tax-free investment and endowment. And that is why, if you were to take out a tax-free investment today of 46,000 Rand per year, an endowment of 46,000 Rand per year, just to make sure that it's apples with apples, you will find that as you go into the future, in the first few years, there's not going to be a lot of difference, because the growth that you are getting in the first few years is not that big that it's going to have a major tax implication. And you're going to see that they are going to be pretty much the same, these two investments, tax-free a little bit more than the endowment. But as it goes longer, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25, 30 years, you will start seeing a substantial gap between the endowment and tax-free plan, where the tax-free will perform better than the endowment because there's no tax on the growth. Now, that is what you will see if you have two identical plans and you run them side by side. You will see the difference. Obviously, tax-frees are limited to 46,000 Rand per year, while endowments are not. And that's one of the differences that is of great importance, because some people need to save much more than 46,000 Rand per year. Okay. So, Swartkat, that was a little bit on tax-free investments, but I don't know if that's what you actually wanted to know. Class and G-Man. G-Man. I've got the... Admin says, how do I make contact with you? Ish, man. Okay. Let me see quickly. I do this every night and I forget every night. Okay. You can contact me on my WhatsApp number. Okay. My WhatsApp number is 060-541-4685. I'll repeat it. 060-541-4685. Mark Harris from my office. He will then talk to you. He's the one that mans that phone, and he will then chat to you and set up appointments for myself or one of my advisors, depending who you want to speak to. So I will put it in the chat now as well, but that's basically how you make contact with me. Okay. So my WhatsApp number, again, let me put it in, 060-541-4685. There we go. Okay, now you've all got it, I think. Let's go back to where were we? Okay, Dean Martin, thank you so much. Dean helped me a lot. Thank you again so much. Oh, great. It's a pleasure, Dean. If it helps, I'm happy, mate. I am very happy then. Okay, Fred says, is the Satrix self-managed retirement plan RA a good option if you have lump sums to invest? I don't know. Fred, I'm sorry, I don't know. And the reason why I don't know, Fred, is if you're talking about Satrix self-managed retirement plan, I don't know if the retirement plan is called that, or if that's the underlying fund that you're talking about. Irrespective, in South Africa, there's 2,800 unit trusts at last count. Okay, and then we have to add on the portfolio. So there's most probably like 4,000 or 5,000 different funds that you can invest in South Africa. So I don't know all of them. I know Satrix, and there's one or two of the Satrix portfolios that I know, like the S&P 500 and the top 40, because those are funds that I like and that does very well. But Satrix most probably has 12 or 15 different funds, and I don't know all their funds. So if this fund that you're talking about, the Satrix self-managed, is an actual portfolio, I really don't know how good it is. So I can't really tell you if it's a good option for an RA. The one thing that I can tell you about retirement annuities is retirement annuities are legislated by Regulation 28. So Regulation 28 says that 75% of a retirement annuity can be in shares. Of that, 45% can be global shares, and the other 25% that's left over must be in cash, bonds, and properties. So for me, the thing is, when it comes to investing for a retirement annuity, is that you should pick a fund or a combination of funds that gets as close to as possible to that 75-25 ratio, and the 45% global equities within it. Because if we look at that structure, okay, then Regulation 28 already limits a person in a retirement annuity to a balanced fund. So it's a medium risk fund. So what you want to do is you want to get the maximum exposure to get the maximum potential growth. Now, the thing is, if you are limited by legislation to that combination split, and now you go and you choose a portfolio that is 40% shares and the other 60% is cash and bonds, you're already putting yourself a bit back, if you understand what I'm saying, because you're limiting your potential for growth by having by not having the right portfolio to give you growth. Because the nice thing with retirement annuities is the tax rebate that we get. If you get the tax rebate, whatever your percentage is, and you get a decent growth, it's the best investment you're ever going to have in your life. But if you get the tax rebate, you get almost no growth, well, then you're actually just doing it for the tax rebate. Okay, and obviously to have money at retirement. So Fred, I would say, I would have to go and look at the Satrix self-managed retirement plan and find out whether it's the actual plan. And if it's the plan, I have to go and research the plan to see how they put it together to tell you if it's good or not. And if it's an actual fund, once again, I will have to go and have a look at the fund fact sheets. And only once I've read the fund fact sheet will I be able to give you a better answer. So Fred, what you can do is this social WhatsApp number that I've just put in, send me the same question on WhatsApp. But then in the WhatsApp, just say, please, I asked this question on TikTok Live on Thursday night. Mark Corneille knows about the question. Give him the question so that he can answer it for me. Okay. And then Mark will make sure that I get it, and I'll go and research it and I'll give you an answer. Okay. Zamangobo, we've talked about endowments about 3 times tonight, mate. I've explained it twice, and I've explained it in comparison to tax-free as well. So I'm going to skip it this time because I think the people are going to get now bored of endowment. You can do exactly the same that I've told the previous gentleman. Go and put your question in my WhatsApp number that I've put on, and then I will answer it for you with a voice note. I think that will be better. PHM says, I've just shared retail bond website. People can read and apply. Thank you, PHM. I'm glad you're doing that bit of work for me. Maybe I should pay you. Because I'm not going to do that for retail bonds. Okay. Elias Exclusive says, please explain to me what happens to my 3 pots during retirement. Elias, this is what you have to understand. This 3-pot thing, okay, just confuses the living daylights out of everybody. It's literally that. It confuses everybody. Because at the end of the day, when you invest money in a retirement and your pension fund, provident fund at the moment, all the money is still, like in previous years, going into exactly the same investment. They don't take your money and divide it up now and say this is the savings pot and that's the retirement pot and that's the vested pot and this is the unvested. No. Everything goes into exactly the same investment in the same portfolio, gets invested, everything, all the pots get the same growth. Okay. So if you never withdraw money, this is the important part. If you never withdraw money, okay, then when you get to retirement, you can choose to take the full 1/3 of your pension and the other 2/3 will give you an income. So if you never withdraw and you get to retirement, you've got 6 million rand, You can take 2 million rand and put it in your pocket, and 4 million rand buys you an income. That's the most important thing. If you get to retirement and you have drawn from your savings pot, okay, that's the only other thing. Then you must know you're not going to have 6 million anymore. Every cent that you withdrew comes off that 2 million, 1/3. So if you've drawn 1 million rand during your lifetime, now they're going to say to you, you've got only 1 million rand that you can draw again, and the other 4 million rand must give you a pension. So forget about the 3 pots, forget about the technicalities about it. It is the worst thing that they could have done in this world to try and launch this thing and tell everybody about it. It's just confusing the living daylights out of everybody. Most important thing, don't draw any of the funds. And if you don't draw any of the funds, the pots doesn't matter, because 1/3 you can draw, 2/3 will use for pension. You do a normal retirement. Okay, Elias, I'm very passionate about people not drawing, as I'm sure you can see. Bashley 52 says, apart from fees charged by finance advisors, are there costs involved to establish a preservation fund? Yes, Bashley. So basically, I need to eat. Because I need to eat, I need to charge you a fee, okay? So there's a commission that I can earn, or a fee that I can earn for doing it. But then the portfolio manager that manages the fund, he charges a fee to manage that fund for you, because he needs to do a lot of work and pay a lot of people. And then the investment house or the insurance company, because they have to manage the product for you, they charge a fee. So it sounds like a hell of a lot of fees, but at the end of the day, it ends up being anything between about, some cases low as 1.4% to some cases as high as, I would say, 3.8, 4.2%. Okay, so it differs from company to company and whatever the case might be. So there are other fees. And when you deal with a financial advisor or company and you want to do something like this, they have to present you with the actual fee structure and show you everything. So you can see it on every quote. They will put everything out. This is the fund, the portfolio manager fee, this is the company fee, this is the commission. Okay. There we go. Admin says, how do I make contact with you, admin? I have just put my WhatsApp number in the chat, so please check it. I will read it out one more time, so stand ready, have your phone ready, and write down the following WhatsApp number: 060-541-4685. It's my WhatsApp number. That's how you can make contact with me, okay? Cosmos Kind, how's it? You back again? Hi, Corey. That is exactly what I have done with my gratuity. Oh, okay. I'm not sure what it is that what you've done, but congratulations. Cosmos Kind and Rowan's chatting with each other. Oh, okay. Rowan, Cosmos Kind, seems like you two have chatted quite a bit. Good. There's my WhatsApp number. I've just gone past it myself. 060-541-4685. Which is the best investment plan where I get money monthly to survive and not overtax? Rui, I explained Nana as well in terms of the different investments and taxes. All investment plans, okay, are taxed the same. The income is taxed the same. So if you have compulsory money from a pension fund and you get an income, you are taxed the same with all companies. It's not one company has a better tax system than the other. SARS determines that everybody's tax system and how you pay tax and what tax you pay is the same. So there is no company where you are not overtaxed, okay? It depends on the type of money that you're investing and the type of product that you're going to need. That is the thing that will determine the tax. Which is the best investment? Well, the investment will be determined by whether it is your pension fund money or whether it is your own money that you saved on the sideline, in an endowment, in a bank account, whatever the case might be. So it's impossible to tell you this company is going to be the best or that company is going to be the best. It's going to depend on the day that you actually need to make the investment. It's going to depend on that day. The company that gives you the best guaranteed rates, or the company whose portfolios that you are going to invest in you believe is the best. And the only way to determine that is to speak to a financial advisor that knows these things and can explain it to you and can advise you accordingly. Okay. Elias, I've answered the 3-pot thing. I see it's popped up again, so I'm not going to answer the second time. Floyd, after 5 years in endowment, you invest a lump sum over and above the monthly. After 5 years in an endowment, you invest a lump sum over and above the monthly. What's the tax implications? So, Floyd, basically what it comes down to, okay, there is a rule with those endowments that says that you cannot increase or invest more than 20% more than the previous year. So, to try and make it as simple as possible, let's say that you've invested 100,000 Rand in endowment this year. It doesn't matter whether you've done it monthly or a lump sum. Next year, the maximum that you can put in is 120,000. And the next year after that, the maximum will be 132,000. No? 152,000 Rand. So every year, it's the previous year's contributions plus 20%. You can put in more. But that 5-year limitation that I told you about earlier, where I said after 5 years, the funds can be withdrawn and seen as after-tax money, and you can get hold of everything. Okay. The moment that you break that 20% rule, then what happens in endowment? They say, okay, now you've got a new 5-year term. So let's say you've had it for 5 years, and then you put in that last year you put in 40% more. Then they say, okay, now you've got a new 5-year term that starts, a new restricted period as they call it. So if people want to do that, I normally say to them, well, keep your one endowment, just open a second one with the same company, because the cost is better that way. And now you've got the one that you can access your funds and there's no limitations on you, and the other one just starts running a new 5-year restricted period. Okay. Hey folks, it is 7 o'clock. I'm going to try and wrap this up as quick as possible. Floyd says, okay, 007, agree, Corey, don't use the 3-pot system. You will really regret that decision when, absolutely. Don't use, oh, man, how's that for timing? I am at the last question. Baby girl says, I am 55, have retirement that I want to transfer into preservation and also stop the contribution. So baby girl, the question would be here for you, if you're 55 years old. If you are in a retirement annuity, okay, and you want to stop contributions, you can do that. You just make the investment paid up. So you don't have to move it into a preservation fund. You just leave it in that retirement annuity. You just don't contribute anymore. It's as simple as that. If it is money that is with a company that you are working for, and it's in a pension or provident fund with them, you have to obviously resign, because you cannot take the money and move it to a preservation fund while you are still working. While you're still working, the company's legislation will say you must contribute to our pension or provident fund. So if you are going to resign from the company, then you can move it to a preservation fund. But don't just resign to move it to a preservation fund, because that's not a good idea. So in order, and you can also, obviously, because you're working for a company, if you're working for a company and you've got that pension or provident fund, you can't stop the contributions, because that's part of your employment contract. It says that you must belong to the pension fund, you must contribute. Okay. In any case, irrespective of whether it's a company with a pension fund, provident fund, retirement annuity, I don't know why anybody would want to stop it. Because the longer you can save, the longer you can invest, the more you can put in, the easier it becomes when you eventually do retire. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I have enjoyed my evening with you all. Thank you very much for all the questions. I hope you've learned something. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me on that WhatsApp number, and we will gladly answer every and all questions, set up appointments if necessary, try and help you with whatever we can. Keep well. Until next week, Thursday, have a blessed time. Keep well.